From a galaxy not too far from here, I'm Andrew Dimalanta.
And I'm Nicki Dimalanta.
And we're going rogue on our weekly Star Wars podcast / show on YouTube. How are you doing tonight, my dear?
Oh, good.
Good?
Yeah.
Good.
It's Thursday. It feels like we're recording this on Thursday, and it feels like this week has lasted for about 2 weeks. It's been horrible.
But to hopefully close out the week like we normally do and close it out the week with you guys, we're talking Star Wars. I mean, well, what else would we talk about on a Star Wars show? But more specifically, I want to talk about the sequel trilogy. And not necessarily the sequel trilogy, but a sequel to the sequel trilogy. And
Sequelception.
Sequelception. But like talking about a hypothetical, and some might say the inevitable episode 10.
You really think
there are some people
that's a thing?
I think, well, I mean, let's just dive into it. So as far as Star Wars goes, do you think it's a possibility that Lucasfilm and Disney sit down and go, you know what? Let's go for it. Let's go for an episode 10.
I mean, I feel like anything's possible because money.
Yeah.
But
and it's Disney.
And
They love
are they
money.
not rich enough?
They love money.
They're not making enough money every day, all the time. From a money standpoint, I could see them doing it because we're gonna see it like a bunch of idiots. So
yeah, if you're a Star Wars, and honestly, if they came up in episode 10, it's like, no, I don't want to see that. I'm gonna see it. And
even if they made an Ewok movie or like a Jar Jar movie,
I mean, I'd
see it.
begrudgingly see it.
I'd watch it.
But yeah,
I don't know. From like a profit standpoint, I wouldn't rule it out.
Mm-hmm. But
I also just don't think that it's going to happen because they made this huge deal about closing out the Skywalker saga.
Mm-hmm.
Trilogies on trilogies on trilogies, and I feel like if they make an episode 10, then that means they're obligated to make an 11 and 12, and then so on and so forth. I feel like they made such a big deal about wrapping up the Skywalker saga that they're done with that series. Maybe they'll start a new episode 1 with a new.
Yeah, I mean, but like speaking on this, like, because we thought this was when the prequel trilogy wrapped up. It's like, all right, that's it. We've told the stories we wanted to tell. George says this is the end of the Star Wars films. We're going to concentrate on other things.
Did he?
Yeah, he's like, yep, that's it. I mean, people always like kept asking him, like, are you going to do episode 7? Are we going to see stuff that happens after? And he's like, no,
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. That debunks my theory.
And when episode 3 the trailers were coming out, it's like, oh, it's the end. End of Star Wars. Basically, it's like it's hard for me to remember like the trailers back then because I was how old was I when that.
And just not actively studying.
I'm not actively. Well, I'm loosely studying. We've begun or whatever. So we don't talk.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. We're not so much. We're talking about Star Wars. Not talking about Shimoda on the show.
Don't worry about it.
But yeah, like when that happened, it's like, oh, it's the end of the Star Wars movies, the last we'll ever see of Star Wars ever, and look what happened. All the years passed, and it's like, all right, Disney buys the property. All right, episode 7's coming out.
I didn't know that, so that really throws a monkey wrench into my argument. Then I think it's definitely more possible that they could do it.
It's like maybe it's like 5 to 10 years down the road. They come up with movies, and like some aren't just hitting as well as they want. It's like, all right, let's go back to what we know, or what the fans have grown up on. Let's get back to that original storyline of going back to, and it wouldn't even necessarily be the continuation of a Skywalker story, because Rey technically isn't Skywalker. She just picked the name up, if you want to mince words.
Yeah, and she didn't even pick the name up until the last one anyway.
Yeah, so but like, I would never put it past Disney to like, yep, let's tell a story of episode 10.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say it's not happening. It's not possible. They're done. Like, no, I'm not friends with Kathleen Kennedy, so I don't know.
Well, who knows? Kathleen might not even be in charge of Lucasfilm.
I'm not friends with George Lucas, so I don't know.
Yeah, who's to say? Like, hey, the fans wanted to see, like, after all this stuff that the fans have been throwing at the sequel trilogy, all the shade they've been throwing in, like, all right, bring Lucas back. All right, you want Lucas? Bring him in for episode 10. So there's just nothing to say that they can do that. Yeah. I will never put it past. But the bigger, I think the big issue they would have running into that is, would Daisy Ridley John Boyega and Oscar Isaac be willing to come back to these roles.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say should they? I was gonna say yeah.
I mean,
would they be willing?
Would they be willing to? I mean, obviously throw some dollar bills at them.
I mean, I would.
And
I'll be in it.
Yeah, and who knows where their careers are at this point? Maybe they're not as relevant as they are right now.
Yeah.
And none of them are. Daisy Ridley's not super relevant now. The saga's wrapped up, and that's unfortunate. I think she's fantastic.
Yeah.
John Boyega is social justice warrior right now.
Yeah,
with like
he's doing his thing.
He's very passionate in what he's doing right now, and all the power to him. Oscar Isaac is picking these roles that aren't huge. Well, no,
Indier.
I'm getting ahead of myself because he's in the new Dune film that's coming out next year,
Is that a big deal?
and that's a big deal.
Oh.
To people that are familiar with the Dune franchise. But he's a little. It's funny because it's like the Han Solo quote unquote role is getting a lot of the more relevant parts now. John Boyega has been in a couple things here and there. Daisy Ridley has been trying to do like the smaller indie roles with Othello, and she was in that One Train movie, that murder mystery movie that I actually did enjoy, and she was really good in that too. But just looking at, I think they're all three of them have said that like they're kind of over these parts right now.
Really?
Yeah, and especially the way John Boyega's hit Twitter.
Oh yeah,
and stuff.
That's true.
I think he's completely done, and I think
That is true.
And I think Daisy Ridley's also like just over it, and like all right, yeah, like it was a big part of her career. That's like it launched her career, but I think she's ready to move on from Rey.
Yeah.
And it's disappointing because I love Daisy Ridley as Rey.
Yeah.
But who's to say like 10 years from now, like their careers are sort of like not in a rut, but like.
But you had some
there's
time to be like.
Yeah, to step away from it. Yeah,
I could do it again.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that Mark Hamill's a different breed.
Oh yeah, he's a treasure. He's an absolute treasure.
He is. I don't know. Because I'm sure that if you're like, you do a trilogy and you're like, I'm so tired of, 10, not even 10 years later, however long the prequel trilogy took. Lots of years.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean,
and it was every other year. I think that's the hard part about it. When you look at the original and the prequel trilogy, there was 3 years in between each of those films.
Yeah, when you have like 10 plus years in between trilogies, it gives you enough time to be like, all right, I guess.
Yeah.
You're not still just hammering them out.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like if they did episode 10, it's like they're going to do it next year.
Yeah, no, I think that you not only have to give the actors enough time to separate themselves from the trilogy, you gotta give the fans time to separate, because we've both said that we've enjoyed the sequel trilogy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
I love it.
It's great. I mean, people have their issues with the Rise of Skywalker and the Last Jedi. For the most part, the Force Awakens is the most well received one, but I think the fandom just needs a break from that right now.
From the divisiveness
because look at how the prequels were received, and now how all these years later, I've been one to hate on the prequels when I was younger, but now that I've come full circle, it's like, all right, I can appreciate those for what they are. And I think, we said it several times on the show, that fans will come around eventually.
Yeah, I mean, look at The Last Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
When that first came out, I feel like, I know we've mentioned this before, but I feel like when The Last Jedi first came out, a lot of people were just like crapping all over it.
Mm-hmm. Not my Star Wars.
Not
Not my Luke Skywalker.
Ryan more like Ruin Johnson,
Yeah.
And then, however many years goes by.
2 years.
2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden it becomes like, wow, if you don't like The Last Jedi, then you must be an idiot.
Simpleton.
To not know what a cinematic masterpiece that movie was.
And
it's just funny how things come around. I mean, there's still some people that don't like it, don't get me wrong. But it just feels like, by and large, when it first came out, it was like, wow, that sucked. And then now it's like, wow, you don't appreciate what a masterpiece that was.
Yeah.
It's going to come around. People will like Rise in a couple of years.
Yeah, and for both of those points, both the fandom and the actors both need a break. And I think the reason the actors are so over it is because of the backlash and the fans that are just like, screw that movie. It gets tiring sometimes to hear all this negativity online when you love something. And like I've said it before, I'm a very forgiving Star Wars fan. There hasn't been something that has come out of this Disney era that I was like, nope, don't like it. I find good, like even Solo. I was like, I didn't it's not a garbage movie, but I found enjoyment
I
out
like
of it.
Solo.
I like Solo, and the more I watch it, it's like this is a funny movie, and I enjoy it for it is. Yeah, I have problems with it being basically like this is how Han got his blaster. This is how he met Chewbacca. This
Checking off
Yeah,
boxes.
it checked off boxes.
And this is the Kessel pen.
Yeah, exactly. But I feel like give it like at the very, very least 5 years.
Yeah.
I could see it being more 10. I hope it's not 10 if it does happen. I would like, because for me, it's like, give me Star Wars all year.
Yeah.
And I would, whatever, like you said, if it's an Ewok movie, yep, I'm going to go see it.
Yep, I'm down.
I'm going to go see it. But yeah, I think don't put it past them. I think, and for the actors, just like, hey, you want to come back? I mean, I thought I was done with that. Hey, here's this check for this much. Okay, I'm playing this role again.
Yeah, I guess I'll do it.
I guess I'll do it. So,
yeah, no, I would.
Money, because same company, Disney owns Marvel. Robert Downey Jr. at one point was like, I'm pretty much over this, not over this character, but I'd like to move on from this character. I would like to try other things. Doesn't succeed outside of the MCU, and then Marvel's like, hey, we have a buttload of money for you. It's like, all right, I'm guessing playing Iron Man.
Iron Man's pretty
Yeah,
bad.
and I think they've had this problem with Chris Evans and Chris Hemsworth was like, yeah, I want to branch out to other things. Hey, you like this big bucket of money we got for you?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I like money.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So
I want to afford my gigantic mansion.
yeah. Have you heard the things that on Endgame that Robert Downey Jr. had his own like wing of like a trailer park? There's like the actors have trailer. He has like his own little villa, basically, because it's Robert Downey Jr. and he had a different like theme lunch for all the cast members every day or something like that every week. It's like, God, when you have that much money, like the things you can do.
It makes me mad. I could get into a whole rant. Like,
I mean,
I could get into a whole almost politically charged rant about the amounts of money that actors make versus teachers.
Yeah,
hey, let me not get into it, but you know what I'm saying.
I know,
it
but
just kind of pisses me off.
But it's Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man.
Yeah, I mean, he's cool.
Yeah.
And if they gave me that much money, yeah, I'd come back. I'd come back for 20 movies. I don't care. Just keep paying me.
So, so as far as that goes, like, yeah, I mean, you get the right circumstances. I think it could work for both the fandom, the actors, and it makes total sense for Disney. Why wouldn't you try to swing for an episode 10?
Yeah.
It's just like,
the more we actually say it, the more I'm kind of like,
yeah.
Probably
What are
will.
fans going to say? No. It's like,
exactly.
Like fans are going to run things like, no, I don't want episode 10.
No thanks, Star Wars. I'm
I mean,
satisfied.
there were a bunch of fans that are like, no, I don't want a Solo film. They made it anyways.
Did we go see it?
Yep. We wanted to go see it. Not a whole lot of people want to go see it because it's the least one that made the least amount of money out of them. It still made a bunch of money.
And even if you didn't like it, you still went and saw it. Dummy. So if you didn't want that in your head, then don't go see it.
And if you're like a YouTuber like we are, it's like, well, we have to see it because we got to give our thoughts on it. So
I liked
Solo.
it. It's a good time.
But so say they do greenlight this thing, and say we do get the announcement like, hey, episode 10 coming in 2020 or 2030 or something like that.
Yeah.
Can you imagine 2030? Wow.
Doesn't sound like a real.
It doesn't sound like a real year.
That's not a real year.
That's not a real year. We're like 2030, episode 10 is coming out. The original cast of the sequel trilogy has been confirmed to return as these roles. What do we want to see? Let's start off with what don't we want to see? What do we not want to see? I could say right off the bat, give me something other than a struggle between the Jedi and the Sith. It's like we've beaten that to death. Bring somebody else. Bring a different kind of struggle to the galaxy that aren't like they could be Force users, but like we've done the Jedi and the Sith so much. Or if it is a new wave of Sith, please don't bring back Palpatine. I don't think you can bring back Palpatine for this.
No, that boy was falling apart. He was just melting off at the fingertips, and we watched him literally get melted.
Yeah.
So, unless he projected himself into another clone body, I don't know. He seems pretty dead. But I don't know. I don't know what other antagonists. That I don't think I'm knowledgeable enough in Star Wars to think of any good. Like I know that in the Rebels and Clone Wars and all that stuff. I don't know. Are Inquisitors bad people?
Yeah,
are they Force users?
They're dark side Force users.
Okay,
they're not. They're basically Sith, but that aren't Sith. They work for the Sith to.
Would you be
down
interested
Jedi.
in seeing Inquisitors in a movie?
Something like that. I mean, like if it has to be like a dark side user, I mean, maybe it's an apprentice that like I know I'm saying like beating a dead horse, being like same it's like
Sith
story
Jedi.
like Sith Jedi thing, but like if you are gonna give me something like that, a storyline that we've seen before, at least give me something new. I mean, we've already seen the apprentice like turning on its master thing, but
Yeah.
giving me different reasons for the apprentice turning.
What about, I don't know, take a ride with me.
Mm-hmm.
What if, because in episode 9, Zori, when they're on Kajimi, and Zori was like, oh, well, the bounty on her head could pay for whatever. What if episode 10 was, like we had kind of mentioned one time before, what if episode 10 was Rey like, uh-oh, we got to rebuild the Jedi Order because we're all sorts of effed right now.
Yeah, and it's just her.
And it's just her, but also Ben. No, he's
Ben's dead.
No, I was thinking about when we were talking about what if he survived.
Yeah.
Oh, that really... all right, never mind.
Put a wrench in your storyline.
It did. But
we also have Finn.
I can push past it. So yeah, she's still got Finn. Yeah, I was still thinking about Ben was there, like we talked about our alternative endings.
I mean, that'd been
I've been sick, but
who's no? Maybe Ben can come back as a Force ghost to like.
Maybe,
Yeah.
but okay, still, let's push right through it. So Rey's like, no, we're in trouble. We gotta rebuild the Jedi Order. She knows Finn's Force sensitive. He got a broom kid and whatever other kids are
out there in the galaxy.
out there able to use the Force. And then maybe you got Rey out here. She's trying to rebuild. They've got a skeleton crew with the Resistance left over.
Maybe not necessarily because this is 10 years past episode. Like say it is it's in 2030. So chronologically and
it can't pick up right where this one leaves off.
No, because then Daisy Ridley, Oscar Isaac, and John Boyega are going to be 10 years older. They're going to be in their late 30s,
Makeup,
something like that. No, I don't. I say it is completely into the future. Like this is 10 years. The Jedi have already come back. Rey is the Master Rey Skywalker, Jedi Master Rey Skywalker. She's basically taken up the what Obi-Wan was in the original trilogy, what Luke was in the sequel trilogy.
I mean, could she still maybe the galaxy's been in a state of just lawlessness because there has been no one, because she didn't have anyone to back her up, and then one day she wakes up and she's like, what am I doing with my life? She's having a midlife crisis, and she's like, wow, the galaxy is in shambles, and we've got Sith here, we got Inquisitors there, we got bad people here. Maybe I do need to actually get off my butt and start piecing things back together. Finn, where are you at? And like she just starts trying to gather up people, but maybe this time, instead of running into Sith and people like that, maybe her antagonist is that she's trying to find as many Force users as she can to almost make her own Jedi temple. But maybe there's people that are still trying to get a bounty on her. She got bounty hunters coming after her or something.
Sort of like John Wick style.
Like John Wick style. She's still good. She's just got a bunch of bad people sending bounty hunters after her, and she's trying to do. Yeah. She's trying to raise the good while the bad is trying to send all the bad to her. I don't know. Something like that.
Something like that.
I don't know. I'm just trying to think of, because like what antagonist would there be that's not a Sith? I don't know. I
mean, I've always been in the camp of like when you're telling stories, because like I think sometimes filmmakers and storytellers just try to get so like deep within too complicated. Keep it simple. Your apprentice turns on you, and now you gotta try to bring them back to the light, or try to prevent them from spreading more evil.
Didn't you say that we've already done that a couple times?
Yeah, but like give it to me a different way. Give me a different reason for it's like, because always it's like the apprentice turns because somebody else is corrupting their mind. What if this apprentice is sort of like, you have no idea what you're doing. We have all these people we're not doing. So say like she does start a new order, but they're not really keeping the peace the way this one apprentice, like, you're not doing what we're been taught to do. You're just sitting back, and this apprentice doesn't understand what Rey is doing, rather than because he thinks we need to be more proactive, being out there and like cutting down all these people, rather than just sitting back. Really, what a Jedi really does is just let things play out.
Right.
And like,
the will of the Force.
The will of the Force. Talk before you draw your lightsaber. Your first instinct shouldn't be draw your lightsaber first.
Right.
Find any other avenues and solutions to struggles. And this apprentice is just sort of like, what are we doing? We have all this power. Why aren't we just like, you know what I mean? And then through all of that greed and arrogance and all that. Just his mind just gets taken over and corrupts. Like, well, you don't know what you're doing, so I'm gonna go and maybe he coerces, or he or she. I'm sorry, he or she coerces a couple of other of Ray's students. Like she doesn't know what she's doing. She's not fit to lead us. And they go off and start their own little group, and then it's a struggle between these two.
Yeah.
That could be interesting to see.
Almost, what you just described almost sounds a lot like the Jedi version of Poe and Holdo. Mm-hmm. Like, this bee over here doesn't know what she's doing.
Yeah.
Like, get this man off my bridge. I know what I'm doing. And then he's, it almost sounds like the Jedi version of Poe. And yeah, it would be fun to see somebody just rebelling just for the sake of a rebellion within the rebellion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It would be fun to see somebody it's not because this mastermind was pulling the strings in, in the background, just because maybe this person just got a little bad streak in them, and or they just got a fire in them. Yeah. It doesn't even need to be like a bad streak.
It doesn't need, you know what I mean? It's like
they think they're doing the right thing, almost like a Thanos type. I mean, he's bad, but like you think you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, and that's usually what the best villains are. It's like they think they're doing the best for the greater good, when it's really not what's best for the galaxy right now.
Yeah.
And I think that would be interesting to see, because where was I going with this? I lost my train of thought. Wow.
Oh no.
But yeah, so like an apprentice or a group of people, and maybe you pick it up, and that's another thing. Like the thing that happened with the sequel trilogy is like we didn't get to see Ben's turn to the dark side. I would like to see this happen in like a span of 3 movies. You see him or her leave, and the seeds get planted, and then the second movie is about the conflict, and then the third is the resolution of. Usually, that's how trilogies work.
Yeah.
So maybe that's how it is, because I would like to see that basic like decline of the character, and then and with this character, don't redeem him or her. Yeah. Don't redeem them. It's just a story of this one apprentice that gets just down and down, and they're so far gone that they can't bring him back, and it's Ray has to make the tough decision. It's like, all right, I guess I can't save this one.
Yeah.
And because that's another thing with this new trilogy, because if they greenlit episode 10, they have to do 11 and 12, obviously.
Yeah.
And it's like, what challenges do you bring to Ray? Because the sequel trilogy is the story of Ray, of her becoming who she wanted to be and finding her place in the galaxy. Now it's like, what lesson, what struggles do you want her to go through? And maybe it's sort of that same lesson with Luke, is like learning to be a leader, learning to teach your students, because that's a whole different storyline you can bring in. Is her maybe she's had this string of great students, and so she's this great teacher, but then there's this one student she just can never reach.
Yeah.
That might be interesting to see.
It would be. Ray's. My question would just be, so the original trilogy, arguably the story of Luke. The prequel trilogy, the story of Anakin. The sequel trilogy, the story of Rey. Do you think that if they made another trilogy, that it would still be Rey, or do you think the focus would shift?
Ooh, yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, because that's usually how it is when the next trilogy comes out. It's a different character. Maybe it's a different. So say you have the antagonist, one that is the far gone student. So maybe it's a story of 2 students that Rey has, and you have the student that leaves and the student that stays, basically, and she's the one tasked to try to find this student and bring him back, and then by the end of it, it's like, no, he's too far gone, or something like that, and that's Rey. But I don't know, but that could be, because the original script for George, when you look at what George was originally trying to do, it was always supposed to be a tale of twins, the light side twin and the dark side twin. And like originally Leia was supposed to be the main protagonist, the Rey character, not the Rey, the Leia character was supposed to be the main story, the main person, and then Luke was the side character, and then it got switched because the way the movies were in the 70s. So, I think it'd be interesting. But like as far as other characters go, like where do we see Finn in all this? Because Finn didn't have a lot to do in this. He got a little. He got pushed aside a lot. Shafted. He got shafted. That's a great word. I was about to say another word.
I was about to say another word too.
But I don't want to say that on the show. Yes, it does.
And I was going to say it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I want to see Finn use the Force.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to see Finn anymore like, I have a feeling. Like, I want to see him use it, not just feel it. I don't know. I mean,
Would he be a Jedi, or would he be more of these like Lor San Tekka type characters, like believer in the Force, like Church of the Force? That would be very interesting, because every time I found myself being very interested in characters like this that are Force believers in the church, because there's this whole thing called the Church of the Force, and they're like they believe in the Force. They like Sheridan was a great example of that. He just seems to be more Force sensitive than others. Laura Urso was another person of the Church of the Force. She believes, and that's why she says to Jin, "Trust the Force," because she completely trusts the Force.
Yeah.
I would like to see him take that kind of role and like sort of be a shepherd of the Force, and like, because he completely believes it in Rise of Skywalker. It's like the Force is real. I had my doubts, but it's completely real now. And maybe he just isn't quite a Jedi, but maybe he's one that recruits people and brings them to Rey. It's like, hey, this person, I feel this connection with this person, and maybe train them, and he brings them to the Jedi Order to be trained. I think that'd be
he's like a scout.
Yeah, like a scout, a believer. And he goes out in the galaxy, and it's like he finds the Force sensitive children, and like, oh hey, and that's another question. I think this new generation of Jedi, do we see Rey training them like the old prequel ways? Like, oh, attachment's bad, possession is bad, knowing your parents is bad.
No,
well, I don't think
it would be like that. If Rey was the like older wise master, I don't think it would be like that.
I think attachments would be crucial too.
Attachment is what makes you strong, because the whole message of Rise of Skywalker is together we are stronger than we are when we're apart. So, and it turned out to obviously be what helped them win. So no, I don't think that they would focus so much on let go of everything, don't love anything, because that would be your weakness. No, I think that if there was a new trilogy, they would focus more on
embrace your attachments,
embrace your connections, because they make you stronger. Recognize that they could be used against you. Recognize that loss is tragic and terrible, but
accept it if it happens.
Better to have loved and lost than to never have loved before, kind of thing. It's just would be a very lonely existence to be like, don't love anybody, barely even love yourself. It would just be very lonely. I think they would focus more on connection.
And as far as Poe goes, where do we see Poe in this galaxy? Because by the end of Rise of Skywalker, it was like, all right, cool, we won. But then like that was one thing that I wish we would have seen more is Star Wars politics in the movies. Because like people, especially in the movies, they're like, oh no, because after the prequels, like get away from politics.
Oh my god, they're so politics heavy.
Yeah, but I would argue that the politics in the prequels is just not interesting. It wasn't captivating. And I gush about this all the time in Bloodline and a bunch of other books. The politics in that are fantastic. It's like that's because it's not like treaties and trade disputes and stuff. It's people with agendas pushing their agendas on other people and putting people in power to push that agenda, and it echoes obviously what's going on in the world today. So that's the kind of politics I would like to see. And if we are going to have some kind of politics in this new trilogy, Poe has to be at the forefront of it. Maybe not as a politician, but maybe they've recreated the Republic Navy, and he's like an admiral now, and admirals have to play politics to get ahead too. So maybe he's it's like, hey, maybe it's like, hey, like we have the Jedi out here, they need to be assisted in some capacity, and maybe he's like when the Galactic Republic's like, what? Like, look what the Jedi did to us in the past. We don't need to try. And that could be another struggle that Rey's going through. It's like balancing the conflict between politics and doing what's right by the Force. Because the one thing about the prequels is it's like the Jedi were so wrapped up in being a part of the Republic, and the Republic has agendas. And by the time Revenge of the Sith comes around, the Republic pushes their agenda on top of the Jedi. It's like, these aren't Jedi affairs. Like, the Jedi aren't supposed to be generals. The Jedi aren't supposed to be waging war. They're supposed to be keepers of the peace. They're not soldiers. So it's like, that could be an interesting storyline, I think, to bring that back in. It's like, we want to help you, but the Republic just doesn't trust you right now. Or like the galaxy doesn't feel like the Jedi there aren't enough of you to keep the peace, or you're not doing what we think you should be doing. You should be doing what you did back in the Clone Wars. It's like, Well, obviously that didn't work back then.
Yeah.
And so that could be an interesting thing for Poe to be at the forefront of, like, I have to keep the peace with the politics. I have to play the political game, but I do want to help you out because, we've had this great, amazing war history with each other, and I want to be there for you, but I just can't because I got to play this. I got to look good for the politicians. So that could be a fun little thing that I think we bring in Poe to be at.
It could be fun.
Or does he go
know.
back to spice running with
No.
Zori? Try to go for Zori.
I don't think that would happen. I don't think he'd go back to that. Yeah, no, I don't know. Because just looking at, the 3 sets of trilogies, they never followed the same group.
Yeah.
At least not in the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the same people might have been there, but they weren't in,
That's a great thing too.
But, I mean, it's whatever. We're just,
Yeah, that was
musing. It's not like it's real.
Yeah,
So it doesn't really matter.
Mhm.
You can imagine it however you want to. But just following that formula, it makes me wonder, if we were trying to be realistic, would they be introducing a whole new crop of people?
Mhm.
Would they choose to continue with Poe, Finn, Rey, Rose?
Ooh.
If I was Kelly Marie Tran, I might be like, peace. But if you pay me enough,
Oh,
then
and this
no.
is
I'll be back.
And I think this is like almost a blasphemous question to ask: is the Falcon still around?
Yes.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it? This ship is. I mean, it was in rough shape in Rise of Skywalker. It was a miracle that thing was running.
It's around.
It's around.
Yes.
We don't try to introduce a new ship.
No. No. Corellians know how to build them to last. It's like the Nokia of ships.
I mean, is Rey still flying that piece of junk?
She could.
She could. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, and that's another thing. Like, do we start introducing new planets, or has the galaxy expanded into the unknown regions? Like, do we know? Like, and that's another thing. Do we find new species that we haven't seen before? Because like you look at the map of, if you go on like Wikipedia or whatever, and you look at the maps, like, all right, Corellia's here, and then you have Naboo, and then here, and then the unknown regions, and it's like,
Oh, yeah.
jeez,
There's so much.
There's so much. So like maybe it's a story of exploring the unknowns, or like there's so many possibilities with like expanding the galaxy. Because that's another thing that people have a problem with. Like, oh, the sequel trilogy didn't expand the universe enough. Like they didn't bring in new things, new ships, new species. It's like
Maybe they got to find a new source of. Maybe they run out of kyber crystals and they got to go find them somewhere else, or they got to find more. You got to find more coaxium.
A new source of aesthetic coaxium.
They got to find new sources of energy or something.
I mean, these are all like great stories for like a mini series or a book. Or it's
Yeah.
like, it's hard to think of like broad stories for a trilogy in 45 minutes.
Yeah. But if anything like this happens, then you heard it here first, and we expect royalties.
Episode 10: Search for the Kyber crystals.
Yeah. Or maybe if bounty hunters go after Rey.
Or the Force goes to sleep and like they just lose their powers and they lose their. Ooh, that would be something.
The Force goes to sleep.
The Force goes to sleep, or the lost connection or something. Like they lose their ability to communicate with the Force.
They just drop connections. Mom picked up the landline while I was on the internet.
But yeah.
I didn't forward my cell phone, so I got kicked off at AOL.
Episode 10: The Force's dial-up.
Ding, 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 ding.
No, but you know what I mean? Maybe they run into this problem where like they just can't communicate to the Force. Stops speaking to them.
That would be pretty crazy.
That'd be crazy, and then they're forced, pun intended, to like try to search like what is going on, and like they have to like, because that's like one of the biggest things with like, because when like the prequel trilogy came out, like Jedi became superheroes. It's like, whoa, they can do that now.
Ooh, you just made me think of something weird. You want to get weird with me for a second?
I like weird.
So what if?
Yeah.
What if? It's gonna get weird. So they introduce midichlorians in the prequels, like it or not, it's canon.
Yeah.
So and it's in your blood.
Yeah.
And they talk to you.
Yeah.
So what happens if somebody out there was like, ooh, I'm going to engineer me a Jedi. And they took a blood sample and they were able to isolate midichlorians and inject them into somebody, and then they became like a X-Man.
Okay,
Jedi.
so what you just said is actually, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not so familiar with legend stories,
Oh,
but
man.
there is sort of a legend story. It happens within a video game. I believe it's
Man, I thought I was
Jedi
doing
Out.
something original.
Well, no, it's not exactly what you said, but it's along the same lines of like they find this artifact or something. Somebody in the chat will correct me. Maybe I'll call up Alex to explain it. But like it's in Jedi Outcast, I believe. It's an old PC video game where like there's this artifact that gives you force powers. So if you're just some guy,
Like Green Lantern.
yeah, sort of. It's like this place that you go to if you have no Jedi abilities whatsoever, and you like enter this artifact or this thing, and you come out with Jedi abilities.
Cool.
And that's basically so. But I like that idea.
That lasts forever.
Yeah, and you just have
Whoa,
you just
that's a
have
pretty
force
sick
abilities
deal.
now.
Wow.
So I like that idea of weaponizing Jedi abilities.
And then they become like Avengers. Like now you're a super soldier, you know, or
I
maybe
like
you
that.
become the abomination of,
I like that.
you know,
Yeah.
Star Wars.
Maybe that's the new antagonist. Is like somehow a scientist was able to engineer force abilities by harvesting them from a Jedi.
And you know how some people are better at, you know, feelings. Some people are better at, you know, all the different Jedi
and you
have.
can just combine.
And you could kind of almost build a bear with a Jedi and be like, well, I want them good at this. I want them good at that. And then you just stick it all in somebody.
I like that. That's a great idea. Heard it here first on Going Rogue. Copywritten.
Call me up, Dave.
I like
Filoni.
that because then it's the whole argument of because I never liked the idea of explaining what the Force is, and like midi-chlorians is like basically saying, "Yep, that's what the Force is."
I had to quantify it. I had to, you know, make
exactly.
it a tangible thing.
So
It's
now,
like,
so now it's like mythos versus science, basically. You know what I mean? So it's like religion versus science,
Yeah.
echoing, you know, real world stuff. I like that idea because then it's this whole like this group. Maybe he engineers like a group of like 10 unbelievably strong non-Jedi
Jedi.
Force
Oh,
users,
yeah.
basically. And now Rey and the Jedi Order have to. I like that idea. That's your
Thank you.
antagonist. Then, and it brings up so many things like profiteering, like war profiteering, like creating like war
Yeah.
just to profit. And
It's all a machine, brother.
yeah, I like that idea. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Ooh, so yeah,
It's copyrighted.
let's. So we have a few more minutes. Let's go off of that. Like, so he injured. So this scientist, let's call him
Professor X.
Professor.
Oh, wait, that's somebody already.
Dr. X.
Dr. Rock. Nope,
Doc-
that's somebody too. Right?
Doc Ock.
Doc Ock. Dr. Rock.
Let's call him Dr. J.
Jedi.
Yeah, let's call him Dr. J for
alright.
right now. So Dr. J figures out I'm able to isolate midichlorians and basically engineer Force users.
Yes.
And he breeds like we'll say like 5 or 6 like just unstoppable forces, and he sends them out just to prove a point. It's like, see, look what I can do.
Look at what power I have.
Yeah,
Pay me from my genetically engineered Force users.
It's like, and let's bring it back to the whole point of like we can't trust the Republic can't trust the Jedi because they're not doing the like, you know, they've betrayed us in the past. So this person is like, look what I can do. I can create people and they'll be able to follow your orders. And he genetically engineers them to follow like clones.
but they're better than clones.
But they're better than clones, and they're better than Jedi because they'll follow your orders to a T, and they're, you know, because they're Force users, and it's like, and he tries to privatize this and like profit off of it, and then Rey is sitting here and it's like, whoa, this is bad for the galaxy.
That's
what are you doing?
unnatural.
That's unnatural. This is not the way like the Force is. You should be, you know, all the Jedi learnings that she does. It's like this goes against everything that we know.
Yeah.
Why are you doing this? And that's the struggle between. And I like that idea.
You're welcome.
Ooh. So what would the title be though?
Days of Future Past.
I mean, technically they own that IP now.
I don't know.
I mean, titles are so wonky.
I don't know. If
I'm terrible.
I couldn't think of it on the spot, but if I had like a day or so and maybe a couple of drinks, I could maybe think of something.
But I do like that because it's science versus religion basically, and like playing God, and stuff. And for histories of movies, what playing God basically entails and how it ends up. It's like abominations, and maybe he has all intentions, and maybe like he presents his artificial Jedi to the Republic, like, yes, we like this, and then they just go off the rails, and he loses control of them.
Yeah, like he could think he's doing a good thing, like he's helping the galaxy, and then they just go going rogue.
Oh, rogue.
That's what it could be called. The movie could be called Going Rogue. Look at that.
Star Wars Episode 10, Going Rogue. Oh, man. Done. Deal. Sign us.
Cut the check.
Cut the checks. Sign us up.
Oh, man.
Yeah, man. That's great.
If only we could sell that idea.
Yeah. Well, it's on tape now. So you heard it here first. That's our idea. So if they do come up with Episode 10 Going Rogue, it's like, I want my cut, Disney.
Wait a minute. Give me like 1 million. That's all I want.
I'll be happy with 1 million. I'll be happy with 500,000, please.
Don't undersell us. If they buy this, don't undersell us, okay? Mama wants a heated bathtub, okay?
I want solar panels on my roof.
Yeah, all right. That's cool, too.
I'm thinking realistic. That's a conversation for a different type of podcast.
I'm thinking me time treating myself.
I'm thinking economically. I'm thinking saving the planet from carbon emissions. That's what I'm thinking.
Treating myself because I deserve it, because times are tough right now. But also the planet. It could be a solar-powered heated bathtub.
Solar-powered. There we go. We agree to disagree, compromise. That's what marriage is all about, people.
There we go.
But with that, with us putting our idea out into the galaxy, I think we'll go ahead and end the show here. That was a fun.
We're manifesting our idea. It's now out there in the world.
It's out there in the galaxy. So with that, we will end this episode of Going Rogue. Nicki Dimalanta, where can they find you online?
Twitter is where you can find me. Twitter at Dimmy, DIMMMYYY.
As for me, you can follow me on Twitter and Twitch at Drew Dimalanta, DIMALANTA. If you're watching this on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell notification so you can be informed when we upload to the channel. Almost had a stroke.
When we upload to.
I gotta get you to do these plugs because it's a lot to do.
Well, I'm gonna need a cue card over there.
I keep saying I'll print one out, but I never do.
All I would be able to do is like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell icon. That's all I remember.
But if you were listening to us on audio form, head over to Apple Podcasts and rate us. It'll help us out tremendously. And if you'd like to support us other than liking and commenting, head over to Patreon, patreon.com/Andrew and Nikki. Become a member of the squadron. Get on this golden idea. Help us push this idea to Disney.
Invest now, baby.
But while we're on the topic of the squadron, thank you to our squadron captains, Fair Smithana, Tamwar Butta, Joss Estes, and B. Door. Thank you so much for your continued support. And I think that's it. Oh, I keep forgetting to mention this. When we do hit 50 patrons, we're going to try to start another podcast. Probably another one like this, shorter form, around 30 to 45 minutes. But it'll be about anything. Talk about anything.
It would be about anything and everything and nothing at the same time.
Exactly. So join the Patreon. Tell everybody to join the Patreon. Get us to those 50 patrons so we can start that podcast, because we have a lot of stuff. We were always talking like...
Earlier today, we were like, this would be a great thing to just talk about into a microphone.
Can't admit we're addicted to podcasts.
Might as well.
There it is. I don't know.
You cannot not admit.
Music's not my thing. Star Wars is. Thank you again for joining us on this episode of Going Rogue. May the Force be with you. Always.